The Riverside Conference Center was almost empty, its polished floors echoing with the faint hum of cleaning machines. Near midnight, Emily Parker pushed her mop slowly across the vast lobby, her breath uneven, her swollen belly heavy under her uniform. She paused, pressing a hand against her side. A sharp pain knifed through her lower back. She gripped the mop handle until her knuckles turned white. "Not now," she whispered, trying to steady herself. But the pain worsened, and her legs buckled. The mop clattered to the floor. Emily sank down, the cold tiles pressing through her thin work pants. Her chest tightened with panic. Shaking, she pulled out her phone and dialed Jason. It rang once, twice. Then his voice, flat and distracted. "What?" "Jason, please, it's happening. I need you." He cut her off with a sigh, the sound of voices and laughter in the background. Cards slapping a table. "I told you, I'm busy. Don't start this now." And then the line went dead. Emily stared at the screen, disbelief flooding her. The lobby around her seemed unbearably silent. Her hand trembled as she scrolled through her contacts, desperate for anyone who might answer. Her thumb hesitated over Jason's name, the screen blurring through a film of tears. She scrolled lower, trembling, and pressed another number almost without thinking. It was still saved under Jason Work. She hadn't deleted it, though he hadn't worked there in years. The call rang once, twice. A man's voice answered, low and steady, edged with surprise. "Hello." Emily clutched the phone. "Jason." "No, I think you have the wrong number." Her breath broke. I need help. Please, I can't. My baby." There was a pause, the kind that sharpens silence. Then the voice shifted, urgent now. "Where are you?" "The Riverside Conference Center. Lobby floor." Her words tumbled out, thin and jagged. "All right, don't hang up. Stay with me." She could hear movement on his side. Footsteps, the slam of a car door. "I'm calling an ambulance right now." The phone clicked softly as he switched lines, his voice returning a second later, calmer, practiced. "They're on their way." "What's your name?" "Emily. Emily Parker." "Emily, my name is Daniel Hayes. I'm driving to you. Hold on. Do you hear me?" She pressed the phone to her ear as if it were the only thing tethering her to the world. His tone wasn't panicked. It was steady, like a lighthouse cutting through storm-dark waters. "Can you sit up?" he asked. She tried, but the pressure in her abdomen forced a cry from her throat. "I can't. Oh God, I can't." "Then don't. Stay where you are. The paramedics are close. Just breathe. Focus on my voice." His voice filled the emptiness of the marble hall. She clung to it, to the unfamiliar certainty it carried. Somewhere in the distance, she heard faint sirens, growing closer. Daniel spoke again, softer now, as if he knew she was fading. "You're not alone, Emily. I'm coming." The lobby lights flickered overhead, reflecting in the polished floor where she lay curled. The sound of the sirens swelled, a chorus of urgency pressing against the glass doors. Emily let her eyes close, Daniel's voice the last thing anchoring her before the world dissolved into blue lights and hurried footsteps. The fluorescent lights above blurred as Emily was wheeled down the narrow hospital corridor, the ceiling rushing past like a broken film reel. Voices rose and fell around her, clipped instructions, the squeak of rubber soles, the rustle of gowns. A mask hovered briefly over her face, asking her questions she couldn't process. All she could do was nod, clutching her belly, whispering the same word over and over. please." When the gurney stopped, hands lifted her, transferring her onto a hospital bed. A curtain rattled closed. Machines beeped to life. Someone pressed a cool stethoscope to her skin. Someone else adjusted a drip. Emily tried to listen for Jason's voice, for the sound of his hurried footsteps, but there was nothing. Only strangers in white coats. "Where's my husband?" she whispered, her throat raw. No one answered. The minutes stretched, heavy with pain and waiting. Then, through the small gap in the curtain, a figure appeared. Not Jason. A tall man in a dark suit, his tie loosened, his expression intent. He hesitated only a second before stepping inside. Emily blinked, confusion knitting her features. "Who?" He spoke gently, almost formally. "Daniel Hayes. We spoke on the phone. I couldn't leave you alone." Her breath caught. She had imagined an older voice, maybe a tired clerk or night guard. Not this man, polished yet strangely disheveled, his hair damp from the rain. His cuff darkened where it had brushed against wet pavement. "You shouldn't be here," she murmured. "I know." He glanced at the monitors, at the nurses bustling past. "But you called and I answered. That has to mean something." Emily closed her eyes, a single tear tracing down her temple. She didn't have the strength to argue. The ache in her body was unbearable, but so was the emptiness of waiting for someone who didn't come. Daniel pulled a chair closer and sat at her side. His posture straight, but his gaze soft. He didn't touch her, didn't intrude, only stayed within reach, like a promise. The nurse returned, adjusting the four. She frowned slightly at the sight of him. "Family?" Daniel paused, then answered quietly. "Yes. For tonight, yes." The nurse didn't question further. Emily turned her head toward him. "Why would you do this?" His reply was almost a whisper. "Because you asked. And because no one should go through this alone." The machines hummed steadily. Somewhere down the hall, a baby cried, muffled through layers of walls. Emily's hand trembled against the sheet, and without thinking, Daniel let his fingers brush hers. Not a grasp, just a presence. She didn't pull away. For the first time that night, her breathing slowed. The pain didn't leave, the fear didn't vanish, but she no longer felt invisible. In that sterile room, surrounded by strangers, one face remained, unfamiliar, but unwavering. The clock on the wall ticked past 3 in the morning. Emily lay propped against a thin pillow, her hair damp with sweat, skin pale. The monitors pulsed softly, marking each fragile second. Daniel hadn't moved from the chair beside her. His jacket was folded over the backrest. His shirt sleeves rolled past his elbows. The sterile brightness of the ICU made him look almost out of place, but he remained, still, attentive, present. Emily's eyes fluttered open. "You should go," she whispered, her voice rough. "I'll stay," Daniel replied simply. Before she could answer, the door slammed open. The sharp stench of alcohol cut through the antiseptic air. Jason stumbled in, his shirt half untucked, his eyes glassy. His laughter came first, too loud, startling in the quiet ward. "Well, look at this." He swayed, catching the side of the doorframe for balance. "My wife, laid up like a queen with some what? Some guy in a suit playing hero?" Emily's breath hitched. She tried to sit straighter, but the effort made her wince. "Jason, where have you been?" "Busy," he slurred. "Cards with the guys. Don't start, Em. You always do this. Make everything about you." His gaze shifted, narrowing at Daniel. "And who the hell are you supposed to be?" Daniel rose, his movements calm, deliberate. "Daniel Hayes. Emily called me by mistake. I brought her here." Jason snorted, stumbling closer. "Of course she did. My wife, dialing strangers, crying for help. Pathetic." "Stop," Emily whispered, her eyes filling. "Please, not now." But Jason pressed on, his words growing sharper. "You think I wanted this? The baby? The house falling apart? I never signed up to play daddy." He leaned against the bed rail, breath hot with liquor. "Truth is, I never even wanted you after the first year. You were just convenient." Daniel's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. The nurse at the doorway froze, eyes flicking between them, unsure if she should intervene. Emily's hands trembled against the sheets. "Why are you saying this?" "Because it's the truth," Jason barked, then laughed bitterly. "You think I've been faithful? You really think that? God, your coworker Melissa. Yeah, she doesn't nag, doesn't cry. She's a hell of a lot more fun than this." He gestured wildly to the hospital bed, the monitors, her frail frame. "Look at you. Useless." The words sliced through the room, leaving a silence that felt heavier than noise. Emily turned her face away, pressing her lips together, the tears finally spilling. Daniel stepped forward, his voice low but steady. "That's enough." Jason swung his head toward him, sneering. "What are you, her bodyguard? Some rich idiot who thinks he can swoop in?" The nurse cleared her throat sharply. "Sir, you need to leave if you can't control yourself." Jason laughed again, a harsh, broken sound. "Fine. Let the knight in shining armor keep her. See how long he lasts before he runs, too." He shoved away from the bed, nearly toppling the four-stand, and staggered toward the door. The nurse followed, calling for security. The door clicked shut behind him, leaving the room washed again in sterile light and the faint beep of machines. Emily lay motionless, staring at the ceiling, her breath shallow. Daniel sat back down slowly, careful not to startle her. He didn't speak, didn't offer hollow words. Instead, he reached out, laying his hand lightly over hers on the blanket. Her fingers tightened, barely perceptible, but enough. In the wake of Jason's cruelty, the silence between them was no longer empty. It was shelter. The first pale light of morning seeped through the blinds. Emily lay propped against thin pillows, her body aching, her mind raw from the night before. Daniel was still there, silent in the chair by the window, his jacket draped over his shoulders, eyes shadowed from lack of sleep. A knock broke the stillness. A woman in a navy suit entered, carrying a slim folder. Her presence was calm, precise. "Mrs. Parker? I'm Karen Lowell, hospital legal counsel. Mr. Hayes asked me to meet with you." Emily frowned weakly. "Legal counsel? Why?" Daniel leaned forward. "Because Jason has been taking more than your peace of mind. Tell her." Karen opened the folder. 3 weeks ago, your husband filed transfer papers on your family home. He forged your signature. If nothing is done, it will be gone within days." Emily's stomach dropped. "No." "He said everything was handled." "He handled it," Karen said gently, "for himself." She slid a pen toward her. "You can freeze the transfer, file a forgery claim, and secure the property in your name alone. And after what happened last night, his admission that he never wanted the baby, that he's been unfaithful, you have strong grounds for custody." Emily stared at the pen, her hands trembling. Custody, but he's still. Karen's tone stayed steady. He declared, in front of staff and witnesses, that he wants nothing to do with this child. That statement protects you. The words pressed down like weight and release all at once. Emily hesitated, fear and shame curling inside her. Then Daniel spoke softly. He left you when you needed him most. You don't owe him another chance to hurt you. Her eyes met his. In them, she found not pity, but certainty. Something inside her steadied. Emily reached for the pen. Her tears blurred the lines as she signed, but her hand did not falter. Each stroke felt like a cut through the chains she had carried too long. Karen closed the folder with a quiet snap. It's done. The house is safe. Custody petitions will follow. Jason can't touch you now. Emily pressed her hand to her mouth, sobbing silently. Relief and grief mingled, sharp as glass. Daniel moved closer, resting his hand gently over hers. No words, only presence. When her breathing slowed, Emily whispered, hoarse but resolute, "Tell him he's finished. I don't ever want to see him again." Karen nodded, gathered her things, and left. The room fell quiet, filled only with the hum of machines. Emily leaned back, exhausted, her hand protectively covering her belly. The baby stirred faintly, as if answering. Daniel watched her, his voice low and steady. "You didn't just survive, Emily. You chose." She nodded, her lips trembling but firm. "For us." And for the first time, the word us no longer sounded fragile, it sounded like a beginning. The contractions came suddenly, sharp waves breaking through Emily's fragile calm. She gasped, clutching her belly as the monitor alarms spiked. Nurses rushed in, voices quick, movements urgent. Blood pressures dropping. "Prep the oar." The world blurred into motion. Emily was wheeled down a bright corridor, ceiling lights flashing above like a reel of film. She tried to focus, to breathe, but panic clawed at her chest. "Please, please save her," she whispered, barely audible. Daniel kept pace beside the gurney until the surgical doors blocked him. He stopped there, hands clenched, as if willing himself not to push past. A nurse touched his arm gently. "We'll do everything. Stay here." The doors swung closed, leaving him alone in the sterile hallway. He lowered into a chair, elbows on his knees, head bowed. He had met Emily only hours ago, yet the thought of losing her, of losing that child, felt unbearable wrong, as if fate had dragged him here for a reason he didn't fully understand. Inside, Emily drifted between waves of pain and the firm instructions of the surgical team. A mask lowered over her face, voices muffled. Her last conscious thought before darkness took her was of tiny hands she hadn't yet held. Hours blurred. When the doors finally opened, Daniel rose instantly. A doctor stepped out, pulling off his gloves. "She's stable." It was close, but she's strong. "And the baby," he gave the faintest smile. "A girl, breathing on her own." Relief surged through Daniel so suddenly his knees almost gave. He exhaled, long and raw, the first full breath he'd taken since she was wheeled away. Later, in the dim recovery room, Emily stirred. Her eyelids fluttered open to soft light. Beside her bed, a clear bassinet held a swaddled infant, tiny chest rising and falling in steady rhythm. "She's here," Daniel said quietly. He had moved his chair closer, his voice almost reverent. "You both made it." Emily turned her head, tears filling her eyes as she saw her daughter. She's She's beautiful. A nurse entered with a clipboard. We'll need the father's signature regarding custody. Before Emily could speak, Jason appeared in the doorway. Not drunk this time, but sullen, his shirt rumpled, eyes bloodshot. He barely glanced at the baby. Just give me the papers. He scrawled his name carelessly, muttering, I don't want the kid, or the mess. Then, without another word, he shoved the clipboard back and left. The door shut behind him with finality. Emily lay trembling, torn between grief and relief. The nurse squeezed her shoulder gently. It's over now. She's yours. Daniel stepped closer, careful not to intrude, but his presence filled the room with something solid, grounding. Emily reached for his hand. Not out of romance, not yet, but out of need of trust. Their fingers touched, fragile yet certain. The baby stirred, a soft whimper breaking the silence. Emily smiled through her tears. Her name will be Grace. Daniel's gaze lingered on the newborn, then back at Emily. A good name. She'll grow up knowing she was fought for. In that quiet hospital room, surrounded by exhaustion and new life, something unspoken took root between them. Not a promise, not yet, but the beginning of a bond born in crisis, tempered by survival, and sealed by the small heartbeat sleeping beside them. Months slipped by, marked not by court dates or headlines but by small, ordinary miracles. Grace's first smile, Emily's cautious laughter, evenings where silence meant peace rather than fear. Jason's shadow didn't linger long. He was arrested quietly. Financial fraud, forged papers far beyond Emily's case. His name vanished from her world like smoke dissolving into air. Life rebuilt itself slowly. Emily moved into a small townhouse near the river, the deed secured in her own name. She returned to work part-time, no longer as a janitor but in an office role arranged through Daniel's contacts. Not charity, opportunity. Daniel was often there, carrying groceries, fixing a stubborn door hinge, holding Grace while Emily finally showered or simply breathed. Their bond grew without speeches, in gestures. His coat draped over her shoulders in the evening chill, her hand brushing his when she passed him the baby. One late afternoon, sunlight pooled across the living room floor. Grace lay sleeping in her crib, her tiny chest rising in steady rhythm. Emily stood at the window, watching the river move slow and certain. Daniel joined her, quiet at her side. For the first time, Emily whispered, I don't feel afraid of tomorrow. He looked at her, not with pity, but with something steadier. Then tomorrow has already changed. Their hands found each other's, tentative, unspoken, but real. In the hush of that moment, with the river outside and Grace asleep within, Emily felt it fully. Not just survival, but renewal. What began with a wrong number had become the life she had always deserved.